So many cities are looking at ways to decarbonize their transit. While shifting to an electric bus fleet might be a popular idea, it's not the only solution we have.
Yes, Maryland's biggest county is going the hydrogen route for its mass transit. Maria Gallucci is a senior reporter at Canary Media and recently wrote an article about this topic. So Maria, a lot of people are like, okay, hydrogen, is that safe? Is it not safe? Is it expensive? Where do we even start with this?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. As you mentioned, Montgomery County, Maryland recently announced that it's building a bus depot or a clean energy system to support 13 fuel cell buses. And to your question about safety, I would say generally hydrogen fuel cell technology it's considered safe at this point. The fuel is very expensive, and that's part of what Montgomery County is trying to do by producing its own hydrogen on site, kind of eliminating some of those bottlenecks that other projects might face.
So I believe we did a story here on Pattrn where we talked about a ferry that was doing hydrogen fuel. I think it was in Boston maybe. But anyway, my question to you is, what makes the city choose to go that route if it is so much more expensive, maybe instead of the electric route?
That's a great question. And to start, Montgomery County is actually investing heavily in battery-powered buses as well. But when the transit authorities were doing an analysis, they realized there were certain routes for which a fuel cell bus would be better suited. Generally, fuel cell buses can travel longer on a single tank of hydrogen than a battery-powered bus can on a single charge. So in looking at their options, they realized there's some instances in which a fuel cell bus would better serve the transit system.
Got it. That makes sense.
How exactly does it work? I mean, are you filling it up like a gas
That's
tank?
a great question. Yeah, what are you doing?
What is the process of how this works?
Sure. So there are different ways to use hydrogen. In this case, they would be using hydrogen gas and running it through a fuel cell. Fuel cells use an electrochemical process to drive a reaction that in turn drives the electric motors. So it's kind of like a different form of using a battery. And buses carry hydrogen tanks on board as well. So they would refill them up, and it's kind of similar to how you refill a gas tank.
So, I mean, you mentioned the hydrogen can get you longer distance. Is there any kind of rough numbers? Like if you have a battery powered, it could probably run for 3 hours before charging versus a hydrogen powered, which can run for this many hours. Do you have any of that kind of data?
One number that Montgomery County found in doing their analysis is that to travel certain routes, they would need a battery and a half worth of charge to get to where they could with a single fuel cell bus. So it was kind of, that's one metric that they used.
And how exactly do you produce your own hydrogen? Do you pull it out of the air?
That'd be cool.
Well, there's different ways to do it. Most commonly, it's made using natural gas. What Montgomery County is doing is they're installing a bunch of solar panels and batteries, and they're using that electricity to operate an electrolyzer. And so electrolyzers take water and they split it into hydrogen and oxygen, and then capture the hydrogen from that process, and it can be used as fuel that way.
Forgive me if you've already answered this question, but are you guys already up and running, or is this the process we're just getting there?
They just recently announced the project. As far as I know, the buses haven't been built yet, so they're kind of in the process of picking a manufacturer and installing the system. But construction on the solar panel and battery and electrolyzer side, that's starting this year.
Cool. Very cool.
Maria Gallucci, really cool stuff. Yeah, you answered a lot of good questions for us. We appreciate you, senior reporter at Canary Media. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, and I'm assuming as things start to go and they were successful, they'll just keep building their fleet.
And if you have more questions, by the way, you can see more of Maria's work on canarymedia.com. And you can, of course, check out more information here across the board and head to pattrn.com.